Hey, folks, looks like we are now live. I am super happy to have with me. Oh, by the way, I'm Heather Bayer from the Vacation Rental Formula. And I'm super happy to have with me today Brooke Fouts from Venturi. Is it Brooke, Venturi, or let me just take that off. Venturi or Venturi?
Venturi.
Venturi, as in
Yes.
something inventory.
Like vacation rental inventory.
Vacation rental inventory. Perfect. I knew it was something like that, So, hey guys, thank you for joining me. If you're joining us on Facebook, if you are listening to us on the podcast, thanks very much for tuning in. If you are looking at this on YouTube after the fact, thanks very much for being here. We are talking today about metrics, and one of the biggest reasons why is that over the last 6 months or so, I've been talking to Brooke and we've been talking about owner acquisition. And because we've approached this in a really ad hoc fashion for the last 18 years, and we've done okay. We've built our property company up to, at one point it was around 200 properties. We're now back down to around 160 through a ton of things, culling for one. I might talk to you about that, Brooke. Mm-hmm. And natural churn, etc. But as far as getting new owners is concerned, it is very ad hoc. You asked me, Brooke, about how we did this. How do you go about getting your new owners? And I sort of went silent for a minute, and I thought, yeah, they come to us out of the blue. We'll get a telephone call and maybe some, referrals, etc. But we don't have a strategy for it. So, right. Brooke, you helped me at the outset by sharing some information on. I saw you at the VRMA conference last November, and that's the presentation in New Orleans, and that was a fantastic presentation. So I'm going to stop talking, say hello, and get you to introduce yourself a bit more. I'm just so excited about this because I'm going to go and tell everybody what Venturi are doing for our company at the moment and what's making me this excited. But over to you, Brooke. Introduce yourself. Yeah. Those who don't know you.
Well, thanks for having me, Heather. So yeah, my name is Brooke Fouts. I own a company called Venturi, and Venturi is a sales and marketing and technology platform that helps professional vacation rental managers grow their inventory. So that's all we do. We focus on one thing and one thing only, and that's owner acquisition or inventory acquisition. So we're not focused on OTAs and guests and operations. We know where our niche is, and we focus on helping professional managers grow their inventory. And I think what we're going to be talking about today specifically is really just metrics and inventory metrics and why it's important. Now, some people out there that are analytical will probably absolutely love this and dig into it and probably listen to it multiple times. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that maybe aren't super analytical that maybe get bored by this. So I'm apologizing in advance for those people.
Well, I'm not super analytic. I am so right-brained. I'm off the charts. Mm-hmm. So,
and if you enjoy it, then we're good, right?
Yes, absolutely. So just to let you know, guys, for those of you who are watching live on Facebook, you can comment, and I can show your comments on the screen. Thanks, Robert, for your comment. You're obviously here. We've got a couple of other Ria and Justin. Good to have you here, Justin, as well. And if you've got questions, if anybody's got questions, just let us know, and we will tackle them at some point. Okay, so let's just have a quick kickoff with what the metrics of owner acquisition actually are. What does it actually mean?
Well, I guess the first thing is most vacation rental managers, and we've done this dozens and dozens of times, really don't dig into kind of the metrics and the value of a new property into their rental program. They haven't gone through the math of, what does a new property add, to my bottom line each year, and how long do they stay in my program? What is your lifetime value? And if you remember, Heather, we kind of went through this exercise with you, and I think you said the same thing. You're like, oh my gosh, I've never actually gone through this exercise to see what the true value of a new property is into my rental program. And that's kind of where we start. What does a new property add to your bottom line, each and every year, and what's the lifetime value of that?
So, okay. And we did this. You asked me this question. I don't know. So how do you calculate that? How do you calculate the lifetime value of a new property into a rental program? Now, just before you answer, I just want to mention that Brooke does have a 10-minute, 15-minute video.
10-minute, yep.
That actually, it's a presentation on this, and I'm going to put that presentation after we've finished. I'll put it into the Facebook group, so you can take a look at it there. You can go to the YouTube channel when we get this up, and you'll see it just down below, and it will be on the show notes for those of you who are listening on the podcast. So basically, Brooke's going to talk us through what's in that presentation. And the first thing is this calculation
of lifetime value, right? So everybody should know what a new property adds to their bottom line. And what I found, over the years is the average margins, like what is the net profit of a property, is usually about 10% of the gross booking revenue. So for example, if you have a property doing $50,000 in gross booking revenue, usually 10% is what falls to the bottom line. And I've asked this question well over 100 times, and that is usually the number. Sometimes it's 8%. In some cases, I've seen it as high as 20%, but realistically, 10% is kind of that number. So again, a property that does $50,000 in gross booking revenue times 10%, your first year profit is going to be about $5,000. So, $5,000 per year, right? And the thing is, you don't keep a property in your rental program for 1 year, right? I'm sure you've had some, Heather, that have been in your rental program since you started, right? And I'm sure you do have some that maybe churn after 1 or 2 years because they sell the property, they retire to the property. But what you want to do is you want to figure out how long does the average property as a whole stay in my rental program. And the best way to calculate this, and this is actually coming from a SaaS metric, a software as a service metric, it's called churn. So what percentage of your inventory do you churn in an annual basis? So Heather, let's just say you had 100 properties in your rental program, and on average, you lost 10 of those. You would have a 10% churn. Well, to calculate how many years on average you report, and you usually want to do that over like maybe a 2 to 3 year period to just kind of get out any kind of irregularities. But if you take that number and you take 1 divided by your churn percentage, that'll tell you how long on average you will keep a property in your rental program. So again, sticking with this example of 10%, if you take 1 divided by 10%, that comes out to 10 years. So the average property in your rental program will stay in your rental program for 10 years. So, if we've got a $5,000 in profit in year 1, we keep a property for 10 years. That's a $50,000 lifetime value of that one property. So just think of that. If you sign up one property, if you go out and go on an appointment, and you're meeting with this potential owner, and you decide to sign them up, think of that as not as just one new owner. Think of it as $50,000 potentially in profits to your company. And that's pretty significant if you look at it that way. So here's a little hack, though, that I've learned. The average margins are 10%, and the average churn is usually about 10%. So in all the companies that I've met with. So if that's the case, it kind of is interesting how it works out. Whatever the gross book revenue is for that property, as assuming those assumptions, that's what the net profits over the lifetime will be. So if you sign up a new property that's going to do $100,000 in gross booking revenue, you can look at it as the lifetime value to you in profits is $100,000. So it's just an easy way to get to the bottom line.
Yeah, I like that 10 because I have number dyslexia. So 10 is a nice number for me to work with. I usually pass anything to do with numbers over to somebody else. So I quite like that, using that as an average. We talked about, you talk about in the presentation CAC. Can you explain what that is?
Yes. So CAC. CAC stands for customer acquisition costs. So, knowing how much it costs you to, sign up a new property is pretty important, right? So let's just kind of walk through an example. And I do this in the presentation. Let's say you send out 1,000 postcards and it costs you, just to make the numbers easy, $1 per postcard. You've got $1,000 investment in your marketing campaign here, right? And let's assume that you get about a 0.5% response rate, which is actually what the Direct Marketing Association says is the average response rate on direct mail. That'll give you, and then you go from there. And let's just say you convert 20% of those calls that come in. So, 1,000 letters, a 0.5% response rate will give us 5 leads, 5 inbound leads. And let's just say you close 20% of your leads that come in. So that'll net you 1 deal. So now we've spent $1,000 to get 1 deal. So what's our CAC? Our CAC is $1,000. Now that may sound like a lot of money. Oh my gosh, $1,000 to get a new, property into my rental program. But if your first year margins are $5,000, you've made a pretty significant ROI, right off the bat in year 1.
I think this was the huge eye opener for me, Brooke, when we started working with Venturi, that I hadn't looked at it like this. And I was, you asked about, how much does it cost to get a property? And I really hadn't thought about it. And within the company, we talked about different avenues to get new properties, and some of them were figured out quite costly. And but only when you start looking at this lifetime value of that property, and the fact that you talk about how many months it takes to recover the CAC, and if it's $1,000, how many months is it going to take to recover that? And then you look at it over the lifetime, maybe the next 5 years. After that, everything.
Oh yeah,
is profitable.
Absolutely. So if you can get your CAC recovery, or months to recover CAC, realistically, if you can get it under 12 months. So think of it as year 1, you're just breaking even. Okay. All I want to do in year 1 is I want to break even. And if you keep your property in that rental program for 10 years, years 2 through 10 is all profit then. So, but what we're seeing is some of the best companies out there are actually getting their CAC recovery in less than 4 months. So all it takes is 4 months to break even, and then it's profit from month 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to year 10. You know what I mean? So it's again, I would argue there's not a better ROI on the planet for a vacation rental manager than to get new inventory. If you think about it, you can spend so much time and effort to try to get, a couple extra reservations, or, twisting the knobs to get get a couple extra dollars on revenue management, which are all important strategies. Don't get me wrong. But you can move the needle over here and add 10 new properties, and you just added $500,000 in lifetime value, to your bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, we hadn't been doing this, and in the last 2 weeks, and I mentioned to you this morning that we just bought in a list of 18,000 very high quality leads from source that we knew was out there, but these are leads of people that are absolutely interested in our market. We know they either have a property in our cottage country region because they've been out there buying cottagey style things for it. They've been buying docks and decks and boats. So and also those are owners. They're potential owners, a lot of potential owners on that list. So just sort of break down that list of 18,000 that we're going to be working on. What are we going to do?
Oh yeah. So first off, it all starts with data. Data is one of the most important parts. So, at Venturi, we just actually created a learning studio YouTube channel. And our first session was on inventory metrics, which you'll put the link on there. And guess what our second one was? Data. And, data target list. Because without a good data target list, it doesn't matter how good your marketing is if it's not hitting the right target, right? You could have the prettiest postcards and the prettiest digital marketing and everything else. If you're sending it to the wrong target, it doesn't make a lick of good. So data, it all starts with data. So I'm so glad when, in Canada, we struggle to get data. It's challenging to get it. So the fact that you were able to get that list and leverage that list is absolutely huge. So what we're going to do, working with you, is we're going to do an omni-channel marketing approach with that data. So we're going to hit them in multiple ways. We're going to hit them with direct mail. We're going to hit them with email. We're obviously going to be, managing all your pay-per-click campaigns. We're going to do list-based retargeting, through social. So we can actually upload that list and then do direct targeting through all the social channels, whether it be LinkedIn, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, and so on. And then, do some other, really kind of creative things. We can actually do IP targeting directly to them. So serve up display ads directly on their, on any of the sites they go to, if they go to Weather Channel, ESPN, or whatever happens to be. So we're really going to, go after those targets in this omni-channel marketing approach. And then again, track it though. We want to track the response rates. We want to keep tight look on what's our CAC, our customer acquisition cost. We want to look at that CAC by channel too. So if we notice that we're getting a lower CAC on, one channel versus the other one, we can kind of reallocate your budget, based on those response rates and based on those acquisition costs.
Yeah, that as I said a minute or two ago, that it's been a real eye opener. We also talked about, you asked me what were our referral channels, and we said, well, realtors. We have one or two realtors that already refer clients to us. And now in the process of creating data, a database of every cottage country realtor, what will we do with them?
Oh yeah, so we love realtors. Realtors is still one of the best sources for deals. So, but you have to have a proactive approach, just like we have our owners that we're targeting. You have to have a proactive approach to those same realtors. We've done, numerous campaigns direct to realtors, but what we want to do and created specific landing pages for those realtors. And here's a little plug for a great software tool called Unbounce. Unbounce, you can create unlimited landing pages, and but we'll create it specifically for our targets. So in one case, we're going to send out all this, omni-channel marketing approach to the owner, but the other side, we're going to send out all this omni-channel marketing approach to those realtors. Because what we love to do with the realtors is they're going to send us residual business, right? It's typically, as long as you perform and you're helping them out, help them, don't sell them. But if you help them out, they're going to continue to give you business year after year after year. And, it's not a one and done kind of a deal. There, you may end up getting a dozen or more deals a year just from one realtor. But again, it's what can you do to provide value for those realtors to make them want to give you more business?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, because this is something, we want to create real relationships with realtors, and I'm just looking forward to getting that off and running. So enough about us. You also mentioned something called unit economics. What is that?
Yeah, and I'm really nerding out here, but unit economics really in the simplest form is, can I make more money from a customer than it cost me to acquire them, right? So if I bring on a new property and I make $50,000, what did it cost me, to acquire them? Hopefully it's much less than that $50,000. That's it at its kind of most basic, level. And there's multiple, metrics, I guess you can look at, that kind of, talk about the unit economics. So go ahead. Go ahead.
No. You keep going. You keep going.
Sure. So, well, the first one, the simplest is ROI, right? Everybody knows what return on investment is, right? So if I spend, going back to that example we talked about before, if I spent, we sent out 1,000 postcards, my investment, my CAC, if you will, is, 1,000, and it brings on a property that does, $50,000 in gross booking revenue. My margins are 10% of that, or 5,000. It's a pretty clear, ROI, right? It's a 5 times ROI on that one property just in year one. Not even talking about the lifetime value, but really just that year one ROI.
So now we're into this process with you. You're going to be tracking our metrics. So what are the major ones that you're going to be looking at? Right.
So the first is, well, first question we usually ask, and kind of when we went through the exercise is, okay, what are your margins? And people are like, well, I don't know what they are. Well, it's actually pretty simple. If you said, all right, what did you make last year? What was your total top line gross booking revenue? and you just divide those two, and you can get pretty quickly what your margins are. So that's the first thing: is what is your annual what is your average profit, as a percentage. Second, what we want to do is look at your churn. We want to understand, okay, what percentage of your portfolio are you churning? And again, people always kind of give us this stare, like, I have no idea. And then you say, all right, well, how many properties did you lose last year? What did you lose the year before that? And then we do kind of a percentage of those two. So those are the two things we want to start with, is profit margins and then your churn. And then what we want to do is we want to look at, okay, what is what is your lifetime value? So you just divide those two to kind of come up with that number. And then we want to look at your months to recover your CAC. So we talked about this before. So if you know what your customer acquisition costs are, you divide that, and figure out where is that break even point. And then really kind of the holy grail of all metrics is what we call the LTV to CAC ratio. And I know this a lot, but it's really pretty simple. It's like, okay, what is your lifetime value? What is your cost to acquire them? And you divide those two. And that's, that is really the holy grail. And the reason it's the holy grail is because it takes into account your profit margins. It takes into account your churn. It takes into account, like, how long a property is going to stay in your rental program. And then also takes into account on the cost side is what is that customer, cost me to acquire them.
Okay. So for those of you listening, that LTV to CAC ratio, I'll put that in the show notes with a little explanation that Brooke is going to provide me.
And I know this is super, boring for many, many people, but I get excited by this stuff. But just to give you a couple quick little notes. So the target for the CAC to the LTV to CAC ratio should be about 20 times. But the best in breed or best in class companies are doing probably about a 40 times LTV to CAC ratio.
Okay, I'm going to ask you for some written examples, and we'll get that in the show notes if that's okay with you. That's your task. Can I go back to Robert's question here? He said, what's a good commission fee for a referral from a real estate agent?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, there's a couple ways, and I've actually done it both ways. So I've done it where we do actually pay referrals to agents. You have to be careful; it has to go broker to broker. And then I've done it with other company where we don't recommend it. And the reason we don't recommend it is we're providing a ton of value for that agent to help them convert those deals, to help them close those deals. So, they're making, in some cases, when, I was down in Orlando, some of these commissions were $80,000, $100,000. And, we're helping them convert those customers, so we really weren't paying any kind of referral commissions. But Robert, it really depends on, it depends on your unit economics, right? Go through the exercise, understanding, what is the value. We've seen, in Outer Banks, I think the kind of the rule of thumb is 1 week peak commission. So whatever they make, 1 peak week. So whatever they're making on 1 week, they're happy to pay that out as a referral fee. But again, look at if you understand kind of what your CAC is, your customer acquisition cost across the board, and if a realtor is sending you a deal, you can pay up to that or even more in some cases. I like to leverage. I like to start, not necessarily. I want to build a relationship with a realtor and be a tool for them that helps them close more deals. And again, show them the value of helping them close more deals. Show them the value of how, maybe create a program like a referral program where you say, hey, if you refer any properties to me, think of that property as a lead magnet for you. Right. So I'm going to put your name. I'm going to put a nice little tent card in there with your information there. Every inbound guest will get information from you with your name on there. Promote that angle of it before you start actually just, offering out money because that's really what they want. They want more deals, and a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 commission means a heck of a lot more than a $500 or a $250 spiff.
Yeah, here in Ontario, we can't do commissions. We can't pay commissions to realtors, and I think it's the same in a lot of places. What we do, we just launched our new website yesterday, and on there we have a page of preferred vendors, and we have our preferred realtors, and we advertise. We just have a small ad on there for those realtors that we have these relationships with. If they're sending us people, then we want to send them people because I think for all of us property managers, we I mean, I spoke to 3 or 4 people last week who are looking to buy a cottage in our cottage country area. And every one of them said, do you know a good agent? So, of course, I'm going to refer them to those agents that have been referring people to us. So it's a real, it's just a good relationship. That's how it works for us. And yeah, that's just another method. I've got another question here. I've got one from, says Facebook user. It's actually Andy Medic from Sea Change Vacation Rentals. Can you talk a little bit about owner acquisition strategies once you connected with a lead? Different types of owner personas, how to connect with each. I've got my opinion on that, but I'll throw it over to you first.
Yeah. So, I mean, all right. So really, realistically, once that lead comes in, you obviously want to provide value. You want to differentiate yourself, differentiate your company. And as you remember, when we went through the process with you, what did we do? We wanted to flush out kind of what set you apart and what made you unique and different over your competitors. And we call those your USPs, or your unique selling propositions. So what are the things that set you apart, make you different than everybody else? We also flush out your risk reversals. So risk reversals reduce friction during the buying process, make it much more easier to kind of get people to sign up and give them, where they don't have any excuses to not sign up. And then I like what this person just asked, talking about the different personas. So what we like to do is we've done this before. I think we've talked about this before, is we create our different personas, right? So you have the first time Franks, you have the purchasing Petersons and competitor Carlas and things like that. And what you want to do is you want to understand what are those pain points of those personas and how do your USPs solve those pain points. So you may go through a presentation with an owner, and a lot of this comes out to asking questions, right? Understanding what are their pain points, and specifically ask them, what is it you're looking for? What did you not like? If, let's say, they are with it's competitor Carla, and they're with one of those competitors, what do you not like about your current management company? And then what you do is you highlight those USPs that from your perspective in your company that solve those pain points. And that's kind of the strategy that we recommend that our, the Venturi partners use to when they're, presenting to an owner.
I mean, we use something very similar. We have our investor. There's 3 very specific types for us, and every property manager is going to have the different types depending on where you are. So we've got our investors, who are becoming the biggest group at the moment. And they're a very pragmatic, data-focused group.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have that emotional attachment, and we actually treat them differently, and we talk to them differently than we do with the family group. This is the person that's buying the second home because they want to have a couple of weeks to get their family together, but they want to rent it to cover the costs of the rest of the time. And we approach them in a very different way because they have an emotional attachment to the place. They bought it because they want it. They're the ones that are going to want to have grandma's old throw on a bed.
Yeah, every time.
And perhaps bring up some of their well-used stuff from their home. They look at it in a very different way. So we actually connect with them in a different way. At the moment, we've got one standard owner information package and I know, Andy, you use TouchStay as well. I've used the TouchStay platform for our owner information package, the package that goes out at the very beginning, and then we also use it for our owner manual. But I'm in the process of splitting these out so we have a different approach for the different type of persona. Does that make sense, Brooke?
That was well said. Good job.
Andy also wants to know, what about the fee-focused Freddie?
Fee-focused Freddie. I don't know. What do you do on fee-focused Freddie? That's hard to say.
Yeah, there's a number of those that we don't actually take on. You know,
you pass on them. You send them to your competitors, right?
absolutely. Your competitor is charging 2% less than you are. What are you going to do about it? I said, nothing. Go with them.
Yeah.
Unless, I mean, to me, I mean, we all know, we all get that gut feeling when somebody comes, because regardless of the lifetime value of a property, you've also got to feed into it the lifetime issues that they're going to bring. And we've taken on owners where it seemed like it was going to be, economically a great decision, but then we've spent just so much on dealing with owner issues that it almost canceled out the benefits.
We talk about that with our partners, right? Look, it's not just money, right? It comes down to a lot of other things. Like, do you want to work with this person? Do you want to be in partnership with this person for the next 10 years? And how much time and effort? I'm sure we've all had them, right? That owner that sucks up all of our time. It's usually the same one that doesn't get, you end up not making a lot of money on. But really, is it worth it in the end? If you're spending all your time just spinning your wheels with this one owner and you can't make them happy, you're better off if you can kind of do like a regression analysis and understand what are those key factors of those owners that typically you don't like. We actually recommend almost having like a scoring grid when you are actually interviewing new owners, and set up those questions that maybe kind of flush some of these things out if you can. And if you get to a certain point, maybe it makes sense that you actually don't invite them into your rental program. I think that's an important strategy.
Yes. When we still don't learn. After 18 years, we've had to let go of a couple of owners this year that have only been with us for a year, or possibly, I think one of them has been with us for 2 years. And if we go back to the discussions that we had at the very outset, all the factors were there that would point to this. And I'm afraid the fee-focused Freddie, gosh, I got that out. The fee is definitely one that I would step back from and be a little concerned about. I mean, if we're going to talk about that, I saw a new owner a week ago, and I went down to see the property. One of my questions is always, have you rented before? And it was a great property, very, very nice owners. We sat down, we were having a good discussion. I said, have you rented before? Well, we've just done it to our friends and family. And it's been okay. But we want somebody now to manage it for us because we want to get some more rentals, a lot more rentals, and we want to take the hassle out of it, which is fine. I hear this all the time. We all do.
Yeah.
When I went back to the office and I'm doing my research on the comparables, I'm looking at what the rates are going to be, and I come across this same property listed with another manager. and that was an immediate, if I asked you the question and you didn't give me a response, because I don't know what your thoughts are, Brooke, on taking on properties that come from other managers when an owner is dissatisfied with their manager and they seek out another one. I mean, we're always very, very wary of this.
Well, I mean, look, there could be issues with that management company, I guess, you know what I mean? And there could have been certain things that they didn't do, but a red flag for me, what we recommend kind of in our questionnaires, for our partners to ask prospective owners is, have you rented with another management company? And then you ask, push back, what about before them? If you see the to me, a big red flag is somebody that is flipped from one company to a next to a next to a next, you're just going to be a brief pit stop most likely, and they're just never going to be happy. So sometimes that's a good, that would be a very high point value for not signing them up.
Yeah, I'm very aware that there can be clashes, there can be personality clashes, relationship clashes, and we've had them, and people have moved on because something's happened, and the relationship has fallen apart. So I understand that. But it's always something that I take a lot more time over, and would you, here's a question for you. Would you go to that manager if you know them, if you're in a network, and ask them, what was your relationship like? You know, this person has approached us.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost kind of like interviewing, people for your company, hiring them. If you know somebody, it's like that reference check. And I guess it ultimately depends on how well you know that other management company. If you want to, reach out to them. But I mean, we had in some of our companies that I've run before, we had great relationships with our competitors, and I'd have no problem doing that. And people would reach out to us, and you kind of give them give them the truth, and be honest with them and let them know exactly what they're getting ready to get into.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, let's go back a little. Oh, did you want to?
Yeah, I was just going to say, one thing I just thought of that, a lot of people don't take into account also with the value of a new property is the value at exit, right? So not, some people may decide to, sell this company. Some people may decide to sell or hand off the management company to their kids or the employees. But a big portion of people are going to probably sell, the company. And there's a value of every single contract that you sign up when you go to sell your business. So don't only think of it as the profits that you make along the way, but think of it as hey, every one of those contracts has a value when I'm getting ready to sell the business, and that could help with my retirement. And I think a lot of people really don't look at it that way. And if you do look at it that way, then that LTV to CAC ratio even increases even more because you're going to get a nice chunk of money for every one of those contracts. And we have a gentleman on our team, Dylan Burgess, who runs our M&A team, and he can tell you almost to the dollar, what the value of that property will be when you go to sell your business.
Wow. And again, that's something that I hadn't really given a great deal of consideration to, maybe because I'm not considering selling the business. But I know that you should always be considering selling your business, right?
Yeah, well, it's part of potentially it's part of your retirement. Whether you're selling it to your kids, whether you're selling it to your employees, at a certain point, I know, Heather, you're going to go on forever, but at a certain point, you're probably going to move on and not be doing this for the rest of your life.
Yeah, dream on. Okay, tell us. I mean, is there anything else you want to add? And then I want you to talk a little bit more and let everybody know what Venturi does and how you can help them like you're helping us.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say is just really, understand, the value of a new property into your rental program, not only from the profit margins that it throws off over in 1 year, but the lifetime value, but also what is the value, if you go to sell your company, what is the value of that one property? I think you will look at every lead that comes across completely different. And I think you'll look at every single potential deal completely different as well. I presented a couple years ago at a LiveRes conference, and we were talking about, and this was on the guest side, but what does it cost just to get the phone to ring on one lead? And I think in our example, it came out to like $40. So I actually got $40, two $20 bills, and I lit them on stage to prove a point. I said, that's what it's like every single time the phone rings, is that $40. So I said, you will look at every lead now a little bit differently, won't you? And I think that's a good way to look at it here. But yeah, understanding the value of a new property into your program, I think would be the biggest thing for the kind of takeaway for people to think about.
Oh, one other thing I just wanted to mention, and this is something that we've been tackling for a long time, and I know you're going to help us out with this as well, and that is that whole cycle from lead through to onboarding. And because I know that we get leads that come through the telephone, they come via email, they come at busy times. We answer, maybe send out an information pack, and then don't follow up because we don't have a focused route, just simple plan how to follow up. Make sure you call back in 24 hours, etc. And I know that's simple, but we just haven't managed to put it in place yet.
Yeah, so that's a great point. So we're actually developing our own software right now that actually does this. So this is a CRM with sales and marketing automation built into it. So we're developing that, and that should be ready for release pretty soon here. But you don't need to have something fancy. I would recommend. I'm a big fan of HubSpot. So HubSpot is a great CRM. It's free forever. their basic, just CRM feature. If you want to upgrade, they can do some of the marketing automation, but it just really, you set it up into 5 or 6 different stages along the way, and just you process those leads. And HubSpot and most CRMs have the ability to do, sequences and kind of automation. So as it's going from one stage to the next, it'll automatically do these drips. It'll do these follow-ups automatically for you. Like the technology we're building actually has the ability to, do automatic email follow-ups. It'll do text messaging follow-ups. Even when you drag it into kind of like they give you the okay, you drag it into the contract out, it'll automatically fire off a contract directly to them. And it really, it just makes that automation of the process so much easier. And it's going to help again with your conversion rates, which is, pretty critical.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that coming out, because 18 years we've been doing this, and there's been nobody out there that have just concentrating of very, very focused on owner acquisition. And it's interesting. It's a bit like talking to Jessie from your team, and she was saying, looking at our new website and saying, wow, you've actually got an area on your website specifically for owners, and so many don't. And I know Andy Medic, Sea Change, who's listening right now, he has a similar thing. You're not going to get as many owners if you don't let them know that you're there.
Exactly. And it blows my mind. I've been to many sites, property management sites, and they do maybe have an owner page on there, but they haven't really looked at it like a lead funnel, right? Like what they need to do to actually capture those leads. So again, if you think of the value of a property, you will look at that landing page much differently. And this is one of the first things we do. I would say that's probably the lowest hanging fruit we see, because you're naturally going to generate traffic of prospective owners are going to go to your page, and they try to find that page. First off, it's very hard to find for most companies to find where you even do it. And then even if you do have that page, is it a good lead funnel that's actually capturing their information? So is it, following the best practices of a landing page, right? So having a form above the fold that actually asks the information, providing kind of what your key USPs and features and benefits are, those risk reversals, trust icons, forms of social proof, right? So showing, quotes and references and case studies from your other owners. There's kind of we actually have, and we can share this with you, Heather. It's a landing page kind of best practices infographic. We'll share with you, and you can put in the notes afterwards here, and it kind of talks about that. But there's some key things you can do. That is probably the first thing that I would do if I recommended anybody to improve their current traffic that's already coming to their website to improve that conversion.
Well, I just can't leave you without mentioning Southern Comfort Cabin Rentals, CJ Stam. I know that he was up there on stage with you at the VRMA. That amazing session where you had to open the doors to the next room to let more people in. Just goes to show how important this all is. So I'm going to put the link to Southern Comfort Cabin Rentals in the show notes for the podcast, and down below in the YouTube. Just go and have a look at that and see what that list with us page says, and because this is a perfect example, and I believe he's one of your clients anyway, right?
Yeah, so CJ is a great guy, great friend, and he is actually what we call partner number one. He was the reason we started this company. Was really it was because of CJ. It was me, David Angotti, who I know very well, and Wes Melton and CJ were all close friends. We were sitting down in Blue Ridge, and I was trying to think of kind of my next venture. And it was David Angotti that said, Brooke, this industry needs more than anything is a sales and marketing agency to help managers grow their inventory. He's like, you have the story, you've got the history, you've done it, you're positioned better than anyone on the planet to do this. Why don't you do it? And CJ literally raised his hand. He said, I'm in, I'm in. And that was literally the start of it, March of 2019. And, fast forward today, we've got over 70 partners. And it's just, we're growing super fast, and it's been unbelievable. And again, it's still a business problem, and that's what we've done. And we enjoy it. I would say we're the best on the planet at doing this. And it's been a fun ride. That's for sure.
Can you just can you just say what type of company that your service is best suited for?
Yeah. So, I kind of, I don't want to say I hate this question, but it's one of those things where we have partners that are brand new startups, literally with no inventory because they want to get ramped up. And then we have some of the largest companies in our industry. We've got V-Trips, we've got Doug Brindley, we've got Casago, with thousands of properties. And then we have the average, company with 100 properties. So realistically, I mean, every single company, and then obviously you, as a partner, it's like anyone that wants to grow, that is actively looking to grow their inventory, I would say we're a good fit for. But with that said, even though we have one partner that said, Brooke, I never want to have more than 100 properties. But what I want you to do is every year, take my bottom 10% of inventory and replace it with my top 10%. And I want to stay at that 100 number every single year. But if I do that, I'm going to increase my gross booking revenues, considerably, and I'm going to increase by my margin. So he's like, I'll probably within 5 years, I'll double my my revenue, and I'll probably triple my margins by staying at 100 properties.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly from my experience, I've been blown away with how you guys have done the data collection. Not least of which was getting on a call with you the other day and finding 5 faces staring at me. I might have been
yeah, we bring the whole team for you, and that's the thing. It's like we have 30 people on our team focused exclusively on helping our partners grow their inventory. And this is where I get like chills down my spine. It's, look, it's kind of this, David versus Goliath. If you look at these large companies, these venture-backed companies that have hundreds of millions of dollars behind them and the proactive outreach that they're doing, what we do is we bring that venture capital-like marketing plan to go out there and get inventory for you, but we bring it to the average mom and pop shop. So we allow you to go toe-to-toe against those big guys, and win. Because you're nimble and you have, better things to offer than they do. So it really kind of levels the playing field. And that's the part that gets me so excited.
Well, that's great. This has been a fantastic conversation. I know we could go on. Thanks, Patricia, for saying such great information. I'm a bigger data nerd than I realized. I'm getting there. I'm getting to be a little bit of a data nerd now.
I'm impressed.
Oh yeah, you just watch this space. So how can people get in touch with you, Brooke, and talk to you about Venturi?
Yeah, so they can just go to our website, Venturi.com, Vintory.com, or email me at Brooke with an E at Venturi.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. As I said, there's going to be a ton of stuff in the show notes. And if you just caught this at the end of the live session, you can go to YouTube, not absolutely right now, but in a day or so, and check it out on there. So yeah, I've got some work cut out for me over the weekend before I have another meeting with you guys next week. Really excited about the way we're moving forward. And of course, I'm going to bring to everybody, how we are progressing with this. I'm wanting to use this as a case study. Certainly we were talking earlier on about the Property Management Pro, the Property Manager Pro course that we had to abandon in February because this little COVID thing came along. And we're going to be relaunching that. And so happy to say that Brooke was going to be a partner with us on the owner acquisition side of that course. So watch this space for that as well.
Sounds good. So, well, Heather, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It has been an absolute pleasure. So I'm going to end the broadcast. I'm going to talk to you a bit more after this, but thank you guys for tuning in. You please stay in the, put any more comments into that Facebook group and we will get back and answer them. And thank you for those who did ask questions, make comments. It's always great to hear from everybody. So thank you, Brooke.
Thank you, Heather. Appreciate it.